In this video we'll be looking at how to organise information a little bit better. For example, I've got some information here I've added to my website, the 18 dates at which Liverpool won the First Division league title. At the moment this is a bit of a jumble of information and it doesn't really suit a paragraph format. So I'm going to take away the paragraph tags and we're going to put this in a list instead. Lists come in one of two types. An unordered list, which uses the tag UL, and you can organise things in your list with the list tags. It might be easier to use copy and paste to do this. You can see that making a list is an easy thing to do. They don't need to be below each other, just like you don't need to have these bits of white space in your web page. You could put everything right next door to each other. I just find when your pages get quite busy that it's easier to tell where things are if you've organised things with a bit of space in between them. So you see we've created a list here. Make sure it's straight. It's an unordered list. So I've used the tag UL for unordered list. And I've ended the unordered list tag. For each one of the items in my list, I've begun and finished a list tag. This lets the list know that it's time to move on to a next line after each tag is closed. I'll show you what this looks like when you view it on a web page. You recognise this from Microsoft Word. An unordered list produces a list of bullet points. So what does an ordered list do? Let's have a look. I've changed the unordered list to an ordered list here. And some of you may have already guessed, an ordered list brings up a list of numbers. I prefer the unordered list, and I'm going to use the wonder of the undo button to make that happen. Lists are really useful, not just so that you don't need to have a big bunch of paragraph text, but as we'll learn a little later on, lists are hugely useful in getting your website ranked in Google and in producing menu systems that really work very well indeed. Sometimes lists aren't what you want. I've got a lot of information here that I've added from the internet about some of the history of Liverpool Football Club. This isn't really a list. I don't need a list of this information, but it might be nice to split it up from being one large paragraph, which is how this displays in an internet browser. You can see that HTML ignores these spaces that we put into things, completely ignores the spaces. We need another way to split up different parts of a paragraph from each other, and we can do that using the break tag. And if I put break tags into these spaces here, you'll see what I mean. It splits different paragraphs up from each other. It might actually be nice to have two of those next to each other. In this instance, to split this text up a little bit. It means that it's easier to read parts of text because you only need to read one little piece at a time. And it's the way text is presented to us to make it easier to read and to make it nicer to look at. So you can do that by using the break tag, the BR tag. This is another tag that doesn't need finishing, although strictly speaking it has been finished just here. The BR tag doesn't need a finishing tag afterwards, and in fact you can put this anywhere in your page. If you decided you wanted more space in between some of these menus, you could achieve that, and if you decided you wanted more space at the top between some of these elements as well, you could achieve that too. So a couple of the things to remember. It doesn't matter how much white space you put into between things in HTML files. It makes no difference at all to the way that the internet browser views the page. In fact, this is quite a useful feature of HTML because it means that you can split your text up into pieces. It'll make finding bugs a great deal easier, and it makes coding a great deal easier because you can see different parts of your page distinct from each other. If you want a line break or a space on your page, you need to use the BR tag, the break tag, and anywhere you put that in a page, it'll create a bit more space in between the things that you've got on your page.